Papa Jeff's America program is made possible by contributions from listeners like you. Thank you. If you'd like to buy Papa Jeff a cup of coffee, visit us on the web at coffee.papajeffusa.com, because you know how much Papa Jeff loves his coffee. Papa Jeff's America, the talk radio podcast, continuing the conversation, one podcast at a time. It's talk radio time from Houston, Texas, broadcasting around the country and around the world. Welcome to the Papa Jeff's America program. We're the talk radio podcast that discusses the stuff and things that you want to talk about. The talk radio podcast continuing the conversation, one podcast at a time. Inspiring guests, insightful commentary, and what would a day be without Papa Jeff's classic old guy humor, right? So, here's the guy that has trouble seeing the big E on the eye chart. The guy that some would say has a unique sense of humor, and the guy that definitely has a face for radio. Here's Mr. Here We Go himself, PG the OG, Papa Jeff. Welcome to Papa Jeff's America. The Talk Radio Podcast, continuing the conversation, one podcast at a time. I'm Papa Jeff, and this is Papa Jeff's America. On today's broadcast, did you ever watch the TV series L.A. Law? I did, and I loved all of those great characters, and especially the theme music by the legendary Mike Post. Have you ever read a Tom Clancy novel? The Hunt for Red October, Patriot Games, Clear and Present Danger? Well, in my humble opinion, if you combined L.A. Law and Tom Clancy, you'd have today's guest, Texas native, Houston native, attorney and author Marc Grossberg. He and I recently had a great conversation, and I know you're really going to enjoy it. So stay with us. That's coming up in just a little bit. The Papa Jeff's America program, we are the talk radio podcast, continuing the conversation, one podcast at a time. Here's today's fun coffee fact, according to thebeanpoet.com. A coffee bean isn't a coffee bean at all. It's the pit of a fruit. Coffee beans are actually the seeds which come from the inside of a fruit very similar to a cherry. In fact, they are often called coffee cherries. The pits or seeds are cleared away from the fruit and dried before being shipped away for roasting. Don't try this with actual cherries. And there you have it, today's fun coffee fact. It's 88 degrees and cloudy with 69% humidity at the Talk OG studios in H-Town, Space City, Houston, Texas. We're the city with no limits. We're Houston strong. Coming up for us after the break, observer and listener, attorney and author, Marc Grossberg. Next. The Papa Jeff's America program is on the air. Anytime, any device. PapaJeffUSA.com. Hey everybody, welcome back. Attorney, traveler, and foodie, Marc Grossberg, and I'm reading from his website now, is an observer and a listener. He has a passion for his family, friends, and clients, and for books that entertain and provoke him. He has practiced law in his native Houston for over 50 years, and somehow he says he overcame being a board-certified tax lawyer and one of the best lawyers in America to write The Best People. It's a tale of trials and errors. It's an Amazon and Kindle #1 bestseller, and I understand he also just reached his 100th, say that 3 times fast, 100th Amazon review. Attorney Marc Grossberg is our guest today. Counselor, I am honored. Welcome to the program. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, honor is mine. Thank you for having me.
Definitely appreciate it. We had a little chat off air before we got started here, and your humor is amazing, and I'm not going to tell anybody how old you are. I'll let you do that if you choose to do that. But
Okay.
you are amazing, and I'm honored that you're here. You are a Texas native. You're actually a Houston native,
Yes.
and I've only been here for 2 years. But I can tell you, in that 2 years, and actually very more quickly than that, I learned several things. I learned what Whataburger is.
Well,
I
that's
learned that umble is pronounced without the H. It's not humble, it's umble. I learned that Buc-ee's is indeed one of the largest travel stops on the road that I have ever seen.
clean restrooms.
And
Clean restrooms.
yes, absolutely. And
That's
I
kind of
also
like
learned that no matter where you are, that Houston is an hour away from Houston. It just seems no matter where you're going, it takes you an hour. Certainly not to get over to the high school or whatever, but Houston it's huge. And when we did, as I told you off air, Monica's crazy 7-day plan of how we were going to get here. With this is where we were going to move. We got here, and this place is huge. This is great, but we do love it, and so glad that you're here. Uh, Attorney Mark, what brought you to the law, and involved with that too? What brought you to tax law?
Oh, okay. Well, what brought me to tax law is easier. Um, I went to the University of Houston for undergraduate school, and I got out. I was a political science major, and I was 20 years old. And I know it's hard to believe, but there were no jobs for political scientists. And I had taken electives in accounting, and so I got a job with an accounting firm. I knew almost immediately accounting was not for me. It required disciplined linear thinking, and I was an undisciplined nonlinear thinker. I didn't even know what nonlinear was at the time, but now I know.
Okay,
And
right.
so I practiced accounting for a year and then went to law school at the University of Texas. And I sat for the CPA exam, and I was good at exams, and I passed it. And so when I was getting out of law school and the time was for hiring, uh, they said, well, you have a CPA, you're going to be a tax lawyer. And I thought I was going to be the next Clarence Darrow or something like that. But, anyway, so that's how I became a tax lawyer.
Well,
How did I become a lawyer?
yeah.
Um, I I really didn't know any lawyers when I was growing up. I mean, I knew a couple. None of them were with large firms. There and uh, but I read a lot of books about lawyers, including Clarence Darrow,
Hmm.
um, and I said, well, that looks like that's was good, and I figured if you're a lawyer, you couldn't get fired. I mean, one of your clients might fire you, but not all of them.
Right,
So that
right.
wouldn't be like working for somebody else. So I said, I'm going to go to law school. And of course, then once I got there, I found out if you did well, you went with a big firm.
Hmm.
so, but I never got fired, and I never had a firm collapse underneath me, and I uh, never lost all my clients at once. So I had a privileged ride uh, for more than 50 years. I don't practice too much now. My firm still gives me an office and an assistant and a laptop and IT help, and I don't tell them I'm retired.
There you go.
I
So
hope nobody. If you're listening to this show, don't tell them that I'm retired.
yeah, don't tell them that. Are you listed on the letterhead as of counsel or no?
Yes, yes,
Are
I'm
you?
of counsel. Mhm.
Okay. And the only reason I know that is because I was an LA Law fan, from
Oh
A&E
yeah.
back years ago. That was one of
Oh,
my
I loved
favorite
it.
shows.
Arnie and
Oh,
some
yes.
and
Yes.
uh, the married couple and Susan
Yes.
Day and
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, that was a great show.
Yeah, definitely a favorite. I mentioned off air that my daughter just graduated high school, and she is starting at the University of Houston for her undergrad work. She's starting in August, and I'm assuming it's something to do with political science. She described it to me as gender studies, And then after that's all done, then she wants to go to law school. And we're certainly not that far, but she wants to be an attorney and specialize in human rights, transgender issues, and things like that. And she has asked me to ask you, under penalty of something. I don't know, maybe she
Yeah.
won't make my
Yeah.
coffee or something, but she has asked me to ask you if you have any advice for her about law school.
I do. Uh, the first year is the most important, and you don't get to really pick your own professors. After the first year, you should pick the best professors, doesn't matter which course they're teaching, because if it's a great subject matter but a lousy teacher, you're not going to learn anything. And if it's a great teacher, then it almost doesn't matter what the subject matter is, because you're going to be learning.
Right.
The first year is as it turns out, I didn't know this at the time, I'm telling her now, is the most competitive. It's the one that sort of sets you for the rest of your law school career. And so therefore, you really have to do your best to make good grades. And the best way to make good grades, as my experience was to write down everything that the teacher said. And most of the classes are taught in first year using the Socratic method, which means that the professor doesn't lecture. He asks questions, and then the students get called on and they answer, and he'll keep going till he gets an answer he likes, and then he'll go on to the next one. So if you write down everything that the professor says, and then go over your notes, make sure you can read it or you've typed them or whatever, then all those questions, by the time exam time comes around, will lead you to the answers, and the professor chooses what he thinks is important. So it may be in the book, it may not be in the book, but so just do your best and enjoy your classmates and your classes. And you'll do fine. U of H is, she's not going there for law school, she's going there for undergraduate school. I'm a big supporter of the University of Houston. I think it's wonderful. At the time when I went there, I wasn't happy. It was, all my friends were going off to nice schools and Texas and Harvard and all those places. And my family, very modest circumstances. And so I went to U of H and I worked my way through. And I was the only person in my law school class that had gone to the University of Houston. And
Wow.
It apparently prepared me well.
I think so. In fact, I would say I know so, because you've come so far. And
anyway, it took me a long time to appreciate what a great education I'd gotten there with this professors and my classmates and everything. But now I really do. I've been very involved in an organization called Imprint, which supports the creative writing program at the University of Houston. My sister has been very involved with the entrepreneur program, which is named after her and her late husband. And it's anyway, it's the most diverse. Houston's the most diverse city in the country, and the University of Houston pretty much maps the same diversity, and it's getting better and better. The art is around the campus is fabulous. It is underappreciated by most people, except for the ones who really experience what it has to offer.
She's definitely looking forward to going. She has not been to the campus yet. Everything has been virtual so far with the orientations and everything. And we are planning to go there to the campus probably within a month's time, and check it out. And she's all excited. She's an avid book reader. She's an avid note taker. So it sounds like she should do well.
Yes,
because as in the Socratic method, he or she, the professor, may it may be in the book and it may not, but if you wrote it down, you're going to get it. So
Right.
I think that's great advice, and I am definitely going to pass that along to her. And thank you so much. And don't be surprised if you get an email from her. You just
I'd
may.
be happy to.
And thank you so much. That's great. We want to talk about your book. It's called The Best People. It is an Amazon Kindle #1 bestseller, and it's described as, think of a supersized, red-haired My Cousin Vinny meets the Bonfire of the Vanities in Houston,
Yeah.
where you always can't tell who the best people are. Tell us about the book.
Okay, so it's a legal drama and a social satire, and it's set in what I feel is the glitzy meritocracy known as Houston. It's got a lot of legal shenanigans and horrendous divorces and a Ponzi scheme, clashes between the country club set and the cafe society. The main characters are people who start from outside of the power elite and work themselves into that. And part of what I wanted to tell was that Houston is a meritocracy, and if you're willing to work hard and have a couple of breaks, there's you got a better shot of doing well here than you do in most places.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't matter who your parents or your grandparents were here. But it's also a morality tale. I mean, the character, none of the major characters are without flaws, and generally they'll get punished for their bad deeds. And it takes place mostly inside Loop 610, which the interior parts of the city. I think it's a fun read for people who are from Houston, and it's an interesting legal drama for people who aren't. You know, I've had a great time. You know, here's a, just in case, it says The Best People, a tale of trials and errors. One of my friends called this my second act because, you know, I've been practicing law more than 50 years when this book came out. And it's been fun. Like yesterday, I was on a Zoom book club with an organization of international connections. Houston was the name of the group, but there's been lots of opportunities for me to meet people and talk to them. It's been fun. It's been fun.
That's great. And it sounds like and I'm going to admit, I haven't read it yet. It is definitely on the plan, and I'm definitely going to have my daughter Sydney read it. It's because we love Houston, and getting a little bit of inside view into Houston as well. And certainly about the legal stuff and the stuff that goes on. That's great. And what brought you to, I mean, because you were an attorney and practicing and specializing in tax law, but you're an attorney for so long. What brought you to the authoring world?
Well, I wanted to be an author before I wanted to be a lawyer.
Okay.
In my house, the people who were admired were writers and artists and musicians. Unfortunately, none of them were capitalists, and so I don't have anything entrepreneurial in my bones. But I always wanted to be a writer. There were some writers that I knew growing up, and they had the utmost respect, and I was, you know, enthralled with them. So that was something that was always important to me. But when you're a busy lawyer and you got kids to raise and all that sort of thing, it takes a back seat. So it wasn't until I'd begun to slow down my practice that I focused on finishing this book and turning it into something that people would want to read.
Well, and you have slowed down your practice, yet You are not retired, and we want to put
Right.
that on the letterhead that you are not retired, that you are still practicing law, and you're authoring, and you're doing all kinds of things.
Yeah,
I am
I'm
amazed.
doing Pilates 3 to 5 times a week too.
Oh my goodness. Oh, you're putting me to shame, my friend. Papa Jeff's going to have to do some more stuff here. What's on the horizon? What's next, or what's ongoing for you?
All right. Well, I'm still promoting the book and hoping to get it made maybe into a limited series on Netflix or Amazon or
Mm-hmm.
one of those. Um, there's some other things that I'm working on writing. I want to start traveling again. Uh, and the way I've liked to travel, beginning in 2015, is I would go someplace and I'd just park myself there for a month and explore it. So I did that a month in the West Village in New York, and then a month in South Williamsburg in Brooklyn. And the following year, I did a month in Berlin, and then things started happening. So I didn't have that. I didn't take the opportunity to go someplace else, but I'm going to start. I plan to start doing that again. It's an interesting way to get to know a place.
It certainly gives you the opportunity to make a deep dive into where you are and to see things, and not just hey, a couple days we can go see a couple of things that are on the maybe top 10 list, and go do a few things and then have to take off for something else. And that's, if
Right.
one
And
can
even
do
the
that.
people that
Yeah.
live there don't they don't necessarily look up and discover what's in their neighborhood. And so they're always the people that I knew in New York and the people that I met in Berlin, they were always surprised that I had found things that they hadn't heard of or hadn't chosen to look into that were so interesting and so much fun. So if you can do it, it's, Airbnb, find the right neighborhood in the right city and get a good pair of walking shoes.
There you go. So that's what's coming up, and I, of course, wish you the best on the book and getting it into perhaps a mini series, and with the Netflix thing and such. What, since you've been in Texas, and specifically Houston, for so many years, and you and I actually talked about whether it's Houston with an H or it's Houston without the H. We could probably do a whole episode on that.
Yes, but it's not Houston, whatever.
No matter what, it's not Houston. There you
Right.
go. There you go. Not Houston. What can you fill me in, because I've only been here coming up on 2 years. What is unique about Houston? One of those things that I might not know, probably don't know, but what can we, one of
Well,
those fancy things about Houston? What is it that I don't know that I should know?
well, I mean, it was started by a couple of real estate hustlers named the Allen brothers, and the main character in my book is named Patty Moran. He's from Brooklyn, and so were the Allen brothers.
Okay.
But it's a place where people just can do, you know, what might be impossible someplace else. And people go up and they go down, and some of them get back up. And but you know, a couple of years ago, they were getting ready to do a parking lot over off Buffalo Bio, and they discovered cisterns that were at one point the water uh, uh, provided water for the city of Houston, and now they've turned it into, an artistic, wonderful thing to visit, close to downtown. Uh, Houston has been blessed, if that's the right word, with very generous people, so that the the arts, the parks, uh, we have it better than most places. Uh, Memorial Park is larger than Central Park, and they
Wow.
keep improving it and doing more stuff. Now, I will say this, if we didn't have air conditioning, probably be a town of about 15,000 people, none of whom spoke any language we would understand.
I think you're right. You've got to have really strong air conditioning here. That's one thing that we joke about, that because moving from Reno in northern Nevada, that we joke that we traded the snow for the 9,000% humidity.
Oh my God! And today would be a good example of that.
Absolutely, it is. And
on the other hand, it keeps the women looking beautiful and younger, because all that moisture makes their skin more supple.
The skin is amazing.
Unlike the women in Nevada, where there's no humidity and their face is leather if they aren't using oil of Olay every day.
And the big hair, I'm telling you, my wife is always telling me about the big hair. This gives you, I don't have enough hair to worry about, but I'm always hearing about the big hair. That's great. Well, I'm glad you mentioned Memorial Park too, because that's not something I was aware of, and we do have family from Nevada in town right now, so that's something that we definitely is on our list to go see. We definitely want to do that. Your website is marcgrossberg.com. That's Mark with a C, so marcgrossberg.com. And you can also follow Mark on his social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and I also found a YouTube channel that's there as well. We will have all of those notes.
Well, we'll say this. If you don't like to read books, you like to listen to them, it's now on Audible.
Oh, there you go. So with Papa Geoff not being able to see the big E on the eye chart, that's where I'm headed.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, it was narrated by a wonderful man who's narrated over 80 books named Jim Conlon. And he's got, like you have, he has a radio voice, you hear his voice and you say, that guy ought to be on the radio. And sure enough, he is.
See, then he may end up being on Papa Geoff's America too. I may have to try and contact him and see if he wants to make an appearance, but we're definitely going to check that out. So okay. Attorney Marc Grossberg, thank you so much for coming on and sharing about you and about your book and about Houston, never Houston. And we definitely appreciate your time. We wish you the best. We hope you'll come back and see us and keep us posted about what's happening.
Well, and Papa Geoff, it's a wonderful privilege to get to visit with you. I wish your daughter the best of luck in having a happy and successful college career. And if she wants to chat with me anytime about being a lawyer, that's fine with me.
Absolutely. That's great. I will definitely share that with her. We are so grateful that you came on today. Thank you so much. Be safe. Be well. We'll talk to you soon. Guys, this is the Papa Geoff's America program. We are the Talk Radio Podcast, continuing the conversation one podcast at a time. Joining us today for the Papa Geoff's America program. Check out more episodes of the Talk Radio Podcast at papajeffusa.com. You can subscribe through the link on our website or wherever you get your podcasts. We're on all the major platforms. papajeffusa.com is your home for everything Papa Geoff, anytime, any device. And while you're there, you can check out more episodes of the broadcast, get in contact with us, and easily link to all of our social media. Your thoughts, comments, suggestions, and feedback are what really make this program happen. So send us an email at our website, papajeffusa.com. Please help us get the word out and share our broadcast with all of your social media followers, because sharing is caring. And speaking of caring, if you'd like to help us coffee up here at the Talk Radio Podcast, give a click to the Buy Me a Coffee link on our website. You know how much Papa Geoff loves his coffee. Let's all remember to follow the CDC's as well as your state and local COVID guidelines. Get the vaccine when it's your turn. And let's all do the right thing and take care of each other. Remember, disagree doesn't mean dislike. We're all in this together. Thanks again for joining us today, and next time bring a friend with you. We're looking forward to seeing you next time on the Talk Radio Podcast, continuing the conversation, one podcast at a time.